Well, I want to bring into this debate Paul Goldsmith. He's a politics and economics teacher at Latymer Upper School, not far from here. In fact, thanks very much for coming in this morning. Of course, we've been talking a lot, as we do every day, about how much Brexit is dominating the agenda when it comes to politics. And of course, the Chancellor, no different from anyone else when it comes to that. But of course, productivity is the big glaring problem for him, aside from Brexit, and something that he cannot ignore. And he's had to revise down those forecasts, as we were hearing. How big of a problem is it for him?
I think productivity is really central to the future of this country because it's linked to wages as well. So average earnings haven't gone up since 2008, possibly because productivity hasn't gone up till 2008. And he has to try and plan for a future that he's not even sure how it will be after Brexit in particular.
And why are we doing so badly when it comes to productivity compared to just, you know, a lot of our counterparts just over the pond?
Well, one of the problems we have in this country is quite a large skills mismatch. Something like 24% of jobs in this country are filled by people who don't quite have the skills for it. And that's possibly because of the way we're educating in schools, but also because of the recruitment practices and also adult retraining as well.
So what's your assessment then of how the Chancellor is planning to deal with that? With the hundreds of millions invested into technology, also that focus on getting maths teachers as well. What's your assessment? Is this the right way to deal with this issue?
So it's interesting. Of course, he should take account of the technology and artificial intelligence and robotics, and maths teaching and computer science teaching seems really important. I do wonder though whether he's fighting the last decade's battles and whether he should be thinking about areas where robotics and artificial intelligence are not going to be able to compete, such as the arts and creativity and things like that. And we have 4.5 million people in low-paid, low-potential jobs at the moment in this country, and I think that links to some other political issues as well. If we can work to get them out of that, and some of them will need to be retrained as well, not just in schools, and also, of course, in schools giving information to pupils on how their skills and what they're learning links to industry and jobs as well.
Well, it's interesting you mention industry because we know that engineering and construction are really suffering in this country. But on the positive note, retail and manufacturing seem to be thriving. And I wonder how much that is to do with what's going on in our schools.
Well, I also think those are short-term issues.
Right.
I think in the long term, what we need to do is get a rise in productivity in every industry. And that is about making sure that people are in the right jobs and have the right skills for them for the future as well. So whilst retailing and manufacturing are doing well now, they might not do in the future. And one of the things that Brexit's going to do is possibly mean that companies will have to pay more, spend more on training, spend more on improving working conditions. That actually means not only workers become more productive, but more motivated as well.
In fact, I was going to say, tackling such a massive issue in any normal climate would be difficult enough, but tackling it while we're leaving the EU, what sort of challenges does that bring?
Well, it could go either way. If we end up putting a wall between us and other countries, for instance, that we're going to be less competitive, there's going to be less trade, less people coming here, that might harm productivity. If, however, we end up with trade deals around the world with the countries that we do a lot of trade with, it might mean that, in fact, we end up being motivated to become more competitive and to increase innovation as well. So it depends how closed or open this country becomes in the future.
All to play for. Really interesting. Paul Goldsmith, thanks very much for coming and talking to us this morning.